Have we got a fun one today? I'm glad you're here. We're going to move on to, we're working our way through the PSAT and NMSQT study guide. It looks like this in the front is the fall 2022 one. Here's the guy on the front. You'll know you got the right one. We're working our way through this, and today we're going to start on science. So while I am turning to page 13, you'll meet me here. I want to just go over a couple things with science. So I have kind of described this. You'll know you're in science because it actually feels like the science classes that you take in school. We just got done with a social science, and most of you probably are just starting to either take a psychology class or if your school offers a sociology class. And so you're just getting into the social sciences. Eventually you'll be in humanities and you'll completely understand what I mean by what, the social sciences, feeling like it's just really about the world and how people react to their world and a study about that. Science is exactly like the science classes that you've taken since you were a little baby, where you've gotten your hands dirty, you've done some different experiments, and once again, you know what it smells like when you walk in a chemistry room. Like you can't not know where you are, right? You just know where you're at. You smell a chemistry room, you know it smells like a chemistry room because of all the experiments. So I really want you just to think back to your 6th grade or 7th grade science teacher when they made you memorize the scientific method. Science follows that scientific method. This passage right here follows the scientific method. It really does. And so it'll give you an introduction to kind of what's going on. And then everything is driven in science by a hypothesis. Without a hypothesis, there's nothing to study. So they're coming up with an idea about what they need to discover. So there's always that problem. They have an idea about what the problem is, or what the causes of the problem, or what a potential solution to the problem is. The hypothesis drives this just as much as it does a science experiment. So you come up with a hypothesis. After that, then you get into a little bit of research design. You conduct some experiments. You have some outcomes. You share your outcomes. Scientists are always going to share their outcomes. And then you think about, what am I going to do with this now? And so that whole scientific method is like kind of a big circle, starting off with like an introduction to what's going on, developing into a hypothesis, an idea or question that really drives the study, and then getting into some research design, getting into the lab and doing the research, or sometimes the lab is the environment and doing the research whatever branch of science it is. And then sharing those results are really important because scientists aren't done after it's done. Like, they always have the next step to do with that, the research findings. Sometimes they come up with a null hypothesis, meaning their hypothesis didn't find what they thought it was going to, but it takes them off into something else. And this is all the way that this SAT, all the sciences are written. So you can kind of follow the scientific method as you read it today. I just really want you to really think about that. How is this laying out the scientific method? And then not only that, take it a step further and really look for the hypothesis. I'd love for you to really mark it. You're going to see me mark it today. I'm going to mark it as I'm reading it. I'm going to really be looking for that hypothesis. As always, before we read, you can never skip this. It's the only background information you'll get. I'll tell you something, a lot of times with the science, it's giving you a clue to one of the answers. So let's see. The passage is adapted from Bettina Boxall, Yellowstone Wolves Boost Berry Diet for Grizzlies. Yellowstone Wolves Boost Berry Diet for Grizzlies, study says. 2013 in the Los Angeles Times. All right, so let's go ahead and read it. And I really want you to mark it looking for that hypothesis. You probably beat me because I do take my time. Okay, so here's what I was writing on the bottom. I was trying to like, zoom out so you could see. Okay, so as I was reading, they gave us a really good clue here. Yellowstone wolves boost berry diet for grizzlies. Yellowstone wolves boost berry diet for grizzlies. So I was really curious. First of all, I was thinking the wolf and the grizzly, living together. I don't know. I wouldn't want to be camping there at night anyway. So the return of a top predator, I wasn't sure which top predator they were talking about. I read it through. The reintroduction of the gray wolf. So a top predator, they're referring to the gray wolf. Then also the grizzly has come back because of the wolves. I was writing it down here because I was like, wow, this is an interesting food chain. So the wolves were reintroduced and the wolves were feeding on the elk. So the elk population dropped. But because the elk population dropped, plants rebounded. So like the berries, what they were talking about in the bear scat, the berry plants came back. And then also over here, they kind of also said that the aspen rebounded. So both of those, the elk were feeding on that. And so as the elk population dropped, then plants did better, aspen did better. But then the grizzlies came to eat the plants. So once again, you won't catch me spending the night in a tent and around here. And then I found the hypothesis on line 19 saying the reintroduction of one top predator is potentially, it was that word, because if they had left that out, then I wouldn't have thought it was the hypothesis. If they had said the reintroduction of one top predator is affecting another top predator, I would have assumed that they had done the research, but the word potentially leads us into a question. A hypothesis is a question, and therefore I know I found the hypothesis. So the reintroduction of one top predator is potentially affecting another top predator through the food web. Got the hypothesis, it makes sense. As we continued, they were looking at the effect. So they were looking at the grizzly scat. They were looking at the effect of the grizzlies coming back. Then they were also looking at the aspens and the effect of the elk, the lack of the elk. And then they were continuing to go on to the scientific method by saying like this type of passive restoration is important because we should be looking much farther and much holistically at large mammal or predator management. So what are we doing next with this? We're going to take, this study, and we're going to say we need to look at this on a bigger scale, not just at Yellowstone National Park. Cool? Are we good? I feel pretty good about that. So once again, I'm reading this so, carefully and slowly because I don't want to go back and reread anything. I really don't want to. I would really like to go through and answer all these questions without coming back to reread. It's coming back to reread wastes time, and this is a time to test, and you don't have time to waste. So I don't want to teach you to go back and reread. We don't skim, we don't reread. Also, this was science with table. Normally I'd check that out. Sorry about that. Normally I'd check that out to see where I'm at. This was science with table. We don't look at the table until we know what we're looking at the table for. You're going to look over to your right, and there will be the sweetest kid sitting there, and they're going to be studying this table before they even see what the question choices are. You're not going to do that because that's a waste of time. And you can't tell them that because you can't talk during the test. All right, let's start off. Big picture question. The main purpose of this passage is to, are they discussing an ecological phenomenon? Ecology is a type of science, so I do like that. They're talking about it. It was more of a discussion. It really didn't feel like a scientific paper, did it? And an ecological phenomenon, I like it. I know if you don't like it, it's because you don't want the word phenomenon. But phenomenon is really just, oh, something happened. Hey, we introduced the wolves back. That's a phenomenon. Yeah, just don't get caught up in words. Analyze a scientific experiment. We can keep it. Resolve an environmental debate. There was no debate that they were discussing. Draw attention to a historic discovery. This wasn't historic. This was in 2013. That wasn't a historic discovery. So between the two, discuss an ecological phenomenon or analyze a scientific experiment. Actually, this wasn't even an experiment, was it? It wasn't under any type of controlled situation with a scientist. So therefore, 19 is A. According to the passage on number 20, what was the direct result of the drop in elk population at Yellowstone National Park? Who needs to look back for this one? Answer it before you even look over here. So the elk population was the direct result of the drop in elk population. Once the elk population dropped, what's the direct result? We just talked about that when I was explaining my little food chain. Other stuff started to grow. The aspen grew and the berries grew. And we know that because they were discovering in the bear scat. So the direct result of the drop in the elk population is an investigation of an investigation of the grizzly bear population now. A decrease in the number of aspen trees. Opposite, it was the increase. An increase in fruit-bearing plants and a surge in the wolf population. No, that's not true. So C would be the answer to that. Easy so far, right? Which choice provides the best evidence to answer the previous question? Whenever we get to this one, remember, pause. We want to narrow down first. So please, let's take the time to narrow it down. We're only on question 3. That means that most likely it's going to be line 6 to 7 to 12 to 15. I'm also going to peek over and see if I can get rid of any. So I'm looking at 22 to see if there's any lines. I'm looking at 23. I can't use those lines. The most nearly means are just thrown in, so we can't use that. It was just thrown in. And then on 25, 25, it's saying line 61, but none of our options are on line 61. So therefore, I'm just going to assume that we're answering this. So we're only on question 2, really. So let's see if it's line 6 to 7 or 12 to 15. Okay, that was my first thing. I just, want to really, really remind you about the question order rule. I also want you to go back up and read the question of the one before. We're not looking at the answer because God forbid we got the wrong answer. So we're looking at this question. According to the passage, what's the direct result of the drop in the elk population? So we'll start 6 to 7. We're looking for the direct result of the drop in the elk population. That doesn't even tell me anything. Sorry, I have to speak out loud. Sorry, it's not A. That answers the question. 12 to 15 answers the question. The overbrowsed plants began to rebound, including berry-producing shrubs that provide nutritious summer meals for grizzlies when they are fattened up for hibernation. That's a summary of the direct result of the elk, a drop in the elk population. Number 22, according to the passage, one potential challenge of the survival of the grizzly bear population in Yellowstone National Park is a shortage of one potential challenge to a survival of the grizzly bear population. So the grizzly bears were only saying they were eating shrubs and the shrubs. So potential challenge to the survival of the grizzly bear. They weren't eating elk. So it's absolutely not that. They weren't eating beetles. Cottonwood trees or white bark trees? I don't remember them talking about cottonwood trees. Cottonwood trees or white bark trees? White bark pine nuts. You see cottonwood trees? I don't even see cottonwood trees. Now I'm wasting time. If you found it, you're better at skimming than I am. Well, I won't waste your time, but I don't think they even talked about it. Oh, there it is. Cottonwood on 44. But resurgence of aspen, cottonwood, and willows. But then down here, they're talking about the grizzly. Could help with the loss of another bear food threatened by climate change, white bark pine nuts. The white bark pine nuts. And survival. Yeah, that was the one that they said. That was the only one they said that the grizzlies were eating. The white bark pine trees. White bark pine trees. Okay, let's see what we can, I automatically, choice best evidence, the previous question, I automatically look over to see if we can get rid of any, because I would love to get rid of a couple of these. But now that I look at it, let's just look at this. Line 27 to 30. All right, that's like going to be in the first column of the reading, right? So it's early on in the reading. And then they jump. That's a big jump from 30 to 50. Like 20 lines is a really big jump when you've only got, how many lines are there? Usually it's 70. So that's a really big jump, 30 to 50. 53 to 59 is not a big jump. And then 60 to 60 is not a big jump. Which leads me to believe if I were in a place where I needed to save time, I would automatically start on B. So just because that is a really big jump to go from 27 to 30. It's totally up to you. We're just learning now and you're just getting into it now. But don't forget, really what we're trying to do is we're trying to answer this question, right? At best evidence of the previous question. A potential challenge to the survival of the grizzly bear population. So I'm going to start on 50 to 53 in the to the nuts. The answer. It is the answer. Like it's not, there's nothing else. If you want to have a look, I always want you to narrow it down to 2, but that was talking about the survival of the grizzly bear population in Yellowstone National Park, and it's due to climate change. So that's the answer. All right, so this question order rule, I know you're going to ask me about this. This is most nearly means. There, remember I said there's going to be 9 of them on your test. There's 9 most nearly means on every single SAT test. And they just threw this one in. So that's why the question, it's out of order, because we just went line 50 and then line 61. But, I guess let's see if there's a chance that we can have a look at it. This one went from line 12 to 15. This one jumped to line 50. And then we're on line 61. And then we're on the final paragraph. So it is going in order. It's just sometimes they're just throwing in a most nearly means because they have to fit 9 in. So they're not going to pay attention to the question order rule with this one in particular. All right, browsed on line 10, most nearly means. We're not looking at the answers. We're going to get rid of the word browsed on line 10, and then we're going to forget what that word was. They preyed on elk herds that ate trees and shrubs. See how simple I'm going with these words? I just said ate, that like they like to eat, or I put consumed, but we want to go as simple as you can on this one for this strategy. Simple but logical. We're not allowed to change the way that the sentence reads. We're not allowed to change the context of the sentence, but very simple, very logical. So this is simple. They preyed on elk herds that ate trees and shrubs, or they preyed on elk herds that consumed trees and shrubs. So I'm going to come over here. I'm not going to let you peek. And I want you to fall in love with an answer. We're just looking for the word that means ate or consumed. Inspected doesn't mean ate or consumed. Skimmed doesn't mean ate or consumed. Destroyed doesn't mean ate or consumed. And grazed means ate. If I'm grazing, and I graze throughout the day, eat little snacks throughout the day. Which choice most closely captures the meaning of the figurative big silver bullet referred to in line 61? I'm definitely going to have to look back on this one. I'm not even sure I remember reading big silver bullet. Which choice most closely captures the meaning of the figurative big silver bullet referred to in line 61? Was it an unexpected outcome? Was it a tempting choice? Was it a definitive solution? I kind of don't like that one already. I don't know why is that one catching me? Or a dangerous, I don't like dangerous. Actually, I don't like dangerous event because there was no dangerous event in the reading. So big silver bullet, something, I don't know, unexpected outcome, tempting choice. If I had to get rid of 2, I would get rid of B and D because a tempting choice, I don't remember anything being in context of a tempting choice. And I don't remember, there were no dangerous events. Remember, I said the most dangerous thing that could happen in here is I could go camping at this place where there's bears and wolves. Oh my, line 61. Okay. It may not be a panacea or a big silver bullet as a food item for the grizzlies. Ripple cautioned that it would take time for berry-producing shrubs to regrow. It may not be a panacea or a big silver bullet as a food item for the grizzlies. So if you don't remember when you were a baby and they were teaching you context clues, the word or means this and this mean the same thing. You know, or if there's an and there too. That means that the two words mean the same thing. They're synonyms. Panacea or big silver bullet as a food item for the grizzlies. So it's not going to be a definitive solution. It's not going to really define, it's not going to solve the problem as a food item for the grizzlies. It's going to take time for the berry producing shrubs to regrow. It may not be a definitive solution as a food source for the grizzlies. Isn't that interesting that at first I really hated that one, but now that's the answer. But it caught my eye anyway. The main purpose of the final, oh yeah, we're on the final paragraph because remember, the last questions are the graph. I love ones with graph. You get through the questions so fast. The main purpose of the final paragraph of the passage is to advise the reader of some potential limitations of Ripple's conclusions about the nutritional needs of grizzly bears. They never talked about that. And also in my head, I'm thinking scientific method. At the end, they're either going to tell us what to do with the study, or they're going to tell us where the study is being replicated, or they're going to tell us what the next steps are going to be based on their findings. So that's really what's happening here in my head when I think about the final paragraph of a science one. Extend the implications of the relationship between wolves and grizzlies in a particular environment to other animals and contexts. I do like that one. Yeah, because they did say what they're going to do next. They're going to say they're going to extend the implications of the relationship. Yeah. To animals in context. Keeping B, describe a certain experiment the Ripple will be undertaking in the future to corroborate his findings. That goes along with what I just said, so I don't want to get rid of it because I'm narrowing down to 2 anyway. And then D, suggest the potential ramifications of reintroducing another species into an already fragile ecosystem. I don't even think they said the word endangered. I don't feel like it was a fragile ecosystem. Between these two, if you want to have a peek back and see which one you like better, extend the implications of the relationship between wolves and grizzlies in a particular environment to other animals in context, or describe a certain experiment that Ripple will be undertaking in the future to corroborate his findings. I'm definitely going to go with B, but I'll just take a peek back because it's only the final paragraph. Yeah, it didn't go into a certain experiment, so B would be the answer. Now our favorite, the graph. So easy. Remember, we haven't even looked at the graph yet because we don't know what we looked at. So let's see what we're looking at. According to the table, the wolf-elk ratio experienced a decrease between which of the following years? The wolf-elk ratio. The wolf-elk ratio decreased. It's only this one. 99 to 2000. And that's exactly how you answer it. So easy. That's how you do it. Don't make it more difficult. It's always that easy. Which claim from the passage most directly supports the data given in the table? Okay, so now we have to infer a little bit. Elk numbers in the Yellowstone National Park showed an overall decline as a result of the introduction of wolves. Elk numbers. Overall decline as a result of the introduction of wolves. Actually, that's actually true, right? From the reading. So elk count when the wolves were introduced, nothing, and then they should decline. Wait. Elk numbers. They didn't decline. They inclined and then they declined. But it wasn't at the same time as the reintroduction for wolves in 1998. So elk numbers overall. Oh, overall. Yeah, it's, well, I don't know. Because there was a decline in one, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, overall decline. Yeah, actually. Yeah. Elk numbers in the Yellowstone National Park declined every year following the introduction. No, they didn't, remember? I just read that. My thing is stuck. All right, I'm gonna fix this, but we're so close to the end. So I'm getting rid of 8 because it's not true. Elk numbers in the Yellowstone National Park in any given year decreased. They didn't. We saw they increased. So C is not true. Elk numbers in Yellowstone National Park stabilized after the initial decline as wolf. They didn't decline till the end. They never stabilized. A is the only one that could be the answer. It's that simple. Don't make it more difficult. All right, we're done. That's your science with table.